Welcome back to my Mythical Meta. My name is Travis, and I'm joined this week by the entire Mythical Meta crew. All of the Metapods are here and hardening. I've got my brother Benjamin.
Hello.
Derek is here. And Randy is here.
Howdy.
Everyone is here. How was y'all's week?
It's been good. I've been lost in the Pal world.
Have you beaten the first boss yet? What's his name? Grisbolt?
Yeah, I've beaten so many people already. I am power leveling.
Is there a PvP in Pal World?
There could be, I think. I don't know. I've just been playing with friends on a private server thing.
Who's your favorite creature so far?
Oh, I have this electric Zapdos looking bird named Beacon, and he's
that
pretty
is
cool.
A funny name.
Yeah, he's
that's pretty good.
He's pretty cool. He does a ton of damage for the level I'm at least.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Benjamin, what have you been up to?
Just working. I've been working a lot. Got a debate tournament this weekend, usually the biggest one of our year.
Woo.
Trying to qualify for city championships, and hopefully after that take some kids to nationals in debate. So that's just prepping for that. Son's birthday was this past weekend, so finish cleaning up from that. And then working. My debate co-coach has been sick, so I've been prepping for all that myself.
Yeah, speaking of sick, both Kristen and Marin have been sick the past week. Kristen went to the urgent care today and got tested for strep throat, and apparently that's what she's got.
Oof.
And so we frantically took Marin to the doctor and tested her for strep throat, and that's what she's got.
Oh, I've been there. It is awful.
Somehow I don't have it, amazingly.
Man.
Dude, I've had it before. I've had it twice growing up. It's just, for me, it was excruciating pain.
Ugh.
And it's constant. Like breathing, swallowing, things you do without thinking about it are now just painful. God, it was awful.
Yeah, Kristen has been pretty miserable over the past week.
Travis, do you remember back in 2010 when we were working at the Boy Scout Ranch and I caught pink eye and strep throat in the same weekend?
I do. I remember. And then, because you were trying to impress a girl, you hiked Black Trail with her.
Yeah, I'm vomiting on the way up there. Hey, but it worked. And I
work.
I got a girlfriend out of all that, so.
You hear us, kids? Fight through the pain.
Yeah.
In order to woo someone, fight through any pain you have to. Randy, what have you been up to?
Got to do some painting this weekend with one of my best buddies.
Oh, yeah, me.
Yeah,
that was an update I should have given, too. So tell us what you painted.
I painted a Death Tyrant, which is a undead beholder.
Yeah, it was awesome.
We went to the new store that Travis found. That was really cool. Huge store.
It was almost like a gaming complex.
Yeah, a compound.
With different rooms for different hobby purposes.
Yeah.
So there's a painting room, a gaming room.
2 private gaming rooms.
Yeah.
Oh, the dream.
So Randy painted his Death Tyrant, and what else?
It was like a miniature of a giant snake that I had already had, but it had a god-awful paint job on it, so I repainted it. I think those were the only 2. And then other than that, this week I've been trying to decide on what kind of tablet. I'm looking between a Samsung tablet and an iPad. And I think I'm leaning towards the Samsung tablet right now.
Cool.
And also looking at getting rid of the iPhone.
Oh.
Everybody salute F in the chat for Randy getting rid of his iPhone.
Yep.
Yes, come join us.
W's.
No.
Big W's.
Randy has been an Android person for a long time, and we finally peer pressured him so that our group could have a decent group chat. And then Randy's girlfriend got in our group chat, and she has an Android too, so
She started with an iPhone.
just ruined everything.
But then she moved to Android. And I'm like, well, that was half the reason was to have this group chat. And then also because my work at the time, my office completely cut off from cell service. But now my current office location, I have Windows. So I have Signal. So I don't need to just only text over Wi-Fi.
Yep.
So I'm like, I can have options again. I can have choices and just a cornucopia of new features that y'all see in about 4 or 5 years.
Oh my god.
Eventually, y'all will get fast charging on wireless. Eventually, you'll get it. But for now, you'll stick with your 5-watt charger that costs $80.
I think I have fast charging on wireless for my iPhone. I got one of those MagSafe chargers or whatever it's called.
Kristen got
I don't
one too.
think that those are fast charged, though. I'll have to double check. But I mean, even before I got the iPhone, my old phone was like, it had like a 100-watt charger on it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, I went from 100 watt down to like 15, whatever it is that iPhone. Anyway, off topic. Getting away from Apple again. My work phone will be Apple, but...
Well,
me that
thank
number.
you for reminding me of our painting. If you'll remember from New Year's resolutions, my goal has been to get the X-Men done before the summer, and I completed the Wolverine, Sabretooth, and Beast. So
Nice.
3 X-Men mutants down.
Out of how many?
So that means 5 more, but Magneto comes with 2 metal constructs. So they have their own base, but they're just pieces of scrap metal. So one is like a car door and one is like a bent up traffic light.
Yeah.
So technically, I've got 7 more miniatures to
Oh.
do for the X-Men.
Okay. So you're making pretty good progress then.
Yeah.
Where does Magneto rank on villains for y'all? I think he's like top, if not number 1, number 2.
He's A tier, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely
S-tier?
A tier.
Yeah, I would say A tier, but not S.
He doesn't seem to be like an interplanetary menace. He seems limited to Earth.
Yeah,
Right.
I just meant like as a compelling villain / like character.
Oh, in that case? Oh yeah. Easily
Yeah.
easily top 5 for me. But only because I haven't thought through this question. He might end up being number 1.
Stew on it all episode. We'll come back to it at the end.
Okay, sounds good. Well, welcome back to My Mythical Meta. We have got a shout out today to our first patron. Woo! His name is David.
right.
David, thank you so much for becoming our first patron. Make sure to get into our Discord. We are excited to start talking Magic with you. Thank you so much for completing the future projects poll on our Patreon page. And we are just so glad that you're here. We can't wait to start a community, and hopefully it's a community that lasts for years.
Yeah. Very excited.
Benjamin, anything
Welcome.
you want to say to David?
Welcome aboard. Excited to have you.
Derek, Randy, be nice to David.
Hi, David.
Thanks, David.
I think David said, here's $1 to each of you.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't see a single cent. So that's $2 to you two.
Hey, buy in. Buy in.
I'm thinking on it. I'm thinking on it.
For anybody still on the fence about joining our Patreon, there are several perks available. First, an exclusive 20% off code to EldoradoGaming.com. This code could pay for months of your Patreon membership. Early and ad-free access to episodes and videos, and access to the My Mythical Meta Discord server to chat directly with the crew. And Benjamin says he's got more.
Yeah, if you join the Discord and you have things you want us to highlight on the show or do side projects, I'm willing to build decks for patrons or do deck techs for your decks. Deck doctors, if you want me to help you spice up your deck or take it in certain directions. Or if you want to play online games, we can record content together. Obviously, I'd record on my end, but we could play Magic Online or Magic Arena or any other game. Just let me know. Obviously, if it's a game I don't know how to play, we'll have to figure it out. But if you want exposure through My Mythical Meta and Eldorado Gaming, joining the Patreon and suggesting things that you're willing to do is a great way to do that. And if you want me to make it a priority, we're willing to take extra tips. And then
Absolutely.
I know a lot of the big content makers out there will say, hey, you send me $50 and I'll run a league with your deck or whatever.
Yeah.
I know we're not necessarily there yet, but we're looking for content, and these are things I like to do anyway.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely. I would love to just play some gang beasts with somebody or party animals. Have y'all seen those?
Oh,
games?
yeah.
I've always wanted to play Gang Beast, and no one would ever play with me.
Oh, dude, you should have said something to me. I've been wanting to play gang beasts.
I've never heard of Gang
There's
Beast.
so many funny videos for gang beasts. Well, all right, Randy, we'll check it out. It's fun. It just looks like a silly party game.
Yeah.
All right. Today's topic is competitiveness. Playing to win. And playing to win at all costs. A lot of people have the idea that winning is the reason to play a game. You know, what's the object of the game? To win. If you'll go back and re-listen or re-watch episode 7. Episode 7 of our show is about why we play games. And winning was the last item of that outline. Winning is not why we play games. Instead, winning is how we play games. The act of playing a game ends when someone has won, at which time we decide what to do next. Do we play the same game again, or do we change games, change decks, change teams? Winning ends the game-playing act. Any game we play with winning in mind.
Yeah, so a great example would be that one of my resolutions this year was to play more games with the family. And I certainly didn't do that so I could beat a bunch of kids at games, right? Now, that's going to happen more often than they're going to beat me for obvious reasons, but it's certainly not why I decided I was going to play more games with the family.
Benjamin said, I really just need to boost up my own ego. What if I beat my 9-year-old and my 6-year-old?
Right? Exactly. So, yeah, winning is not why we play games. And in fact, I've already prepped some words of wisdom, which is unusual, and I'll get to more on this in a little bit, but it's not really the goal when we say let's play a game, because if it was, we wouldn't play free-for-all 4-on-1 games, because 3 out of 4 of us are not going to achieve our goal if our goal is to win.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Winning is how we play games. It's just the literal act of going through the game-playing motions. And then, once someone has won the game ends. How we play games matters. There's a whole set of interpersonal interactions that occur during the act of game playing that are beyond just the rules that were written in the rulebook. How we play the game has an effect on how people view us and on whether people actually have fun. Did we follow the rules? Because not following the rules means that we're cheating or lying and that we shouldn't be playing. Did we honor our promises? Did we do what we said we were going to do? Were we kind and polite? Were our interpersonal interactions decent or courteous? And remember that even in real life, there are laws about war. You know, people have said in Reddit many times over the past few months that all's fair in war, that there are no rules. And we have to disagree. There are rules. You know, the real life world we live in has entire systems of law about how war is carried out, how prisoners are treated, what types of weapons are allowed or not. And if you want to be considered fair and just, you have to follow them, or history looks unkindly on you. And the same is going to be true at your game night. People are going to form opinions about you based on how you play games.
Yeah, the phrase is often all's fair in love and war, and you've mentioned war, and I think covered that pretty well, but, you know, we talk so much about interpersonal communication and building friendships and talking about relationships a lot, and also not fair in love either.
Right.
When you're dealing with people, there are rules of engagement. There are acceptable terms. There's good communication and bad communication. There's cheating and not cheating in love as well as war and in games. There's integrity and respect. And I think that ultimately where we're going to get to here when we talk about competitiveness is there's a good way to be competitive and a bad way to be competitive. And it applies to not just games, but pretty much every area of your life.
Right. What is the right way to be competitive? And then, what are some situations where winning in the wrong way is going to affect the way people look at us and the opinions that people make about us? You know, one of our goals at My Mythical Meta is social interaction. So the way people approach you, the opinions people make of you, those do matter because those are your game-playing partners. If you tarnish or destroy your social relationships in an effort to win at all costs, then you might not have people to play the game with. Games are social, and so you need to make sure that whenever you're being competitive, that you are still looking through a social lens. So that's today's topic, competitiveness. Like always, I'm going to preface this with our game of choice. Our game of choice is the Commander format of Magic the Gathering. It is a multiplayer free-for-all. We play with 4 players, and only one person can win. Winning in that situation represents lots of things, and it's going to feel really great to win. Winning represents making good judgment calls. It represents knowledge of the game and the game's interactions and mechanics. In Magic in particular, it represents good deck construction, overcoming your opponent's threats with your own or with your removal, and more. Winning feels really good because it demonstrates all of these areas of mastery. But the same is going to be true in any multiplayer free-for-all. Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, when people play two-player fighting games. It can feel really bad to be juggled or spammed one move against the entire game, right?
Settlers of Catan. Yeah.
What is a cheat move in Settlers of Catan?
Having someone build a road around you so that you can't expand, you can only build up.
Yeah, or intentionally building right at the end of their road.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Winning feels good. Derek, tell us why winning makes you feel good.
I like it because it makes me, I don't know, I guess the feeling's kind of hard to describe. It's like I've beaten myself. I've set a standard in my mind that I've reached, and it just feels good. I guess you get like an endorphin hit or a dopamine hit or whatever it is that makes you feel good.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just kind of makes you feel indestructible, top of the world type of stuff. And it doesn't have to be even like games, just getting achievements.
Yes.
Like me running further each time I go out and running training or playing pickleball or something.
Y'all, this is going to sound like the dumbest thing. I'm still in Cyberpunk, of course. And there's an achievement for finding every fast travel terminal. And I'm looking for it, man.
Woof.
I'm trying to get it. Because apparently there's like 70-something fast travel terminals. And they're like out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh.
Or they're like hidden underground and stuff like that.
This is what brain sickness sounds like.
I know. But it's that dopamine hit. It's like trying to achieve something that so few other people have achieved.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, when I play with the three of you, the four of us, that is what I want to win for. Is because it proves something to myself and to you guys. That what I built was good. I want to be proud of myself, but I want you guys to be proud of me when I win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe that's latent daddy issues. Who knows?
I don't know. To me, it's like an ego boost where it's like, I feel smart.
Yes.
Like I've cracked a code or solved a puzzle. Right? Because, we've talked about this many times. The odds are stacked against you when we play. It's 3-on-1 all the time. And if you start to do the thing, there's 3 people who might have an answer.
Yeah.
And so you feel like your deck building feels good, your in-play strategy feels good.
Politicking
right?
and stuff.
Yeah, you're politicking everything. It feels like you just pushed all the right buttons, and so you just feel smart. Secretly you're maybe a little smug, right? Like, like you're better than others. Not even necessarily better than y'all, but just better than people out there who don't win as much.
Yeah. I always come back to playing Smash Brothers because it is another game that's often multiplayer free-for-all. And to have survived, say for example, a 5-stock match when 4 other people or 3 other people also had 5 stock. That was my 5 stock against 15 other stocks.
Yeah.
Against 15 other lives. And somehow I was able to use my 5 stocks. Whether I directly got those KOs or not, I was able to maneuver around the battlefield enough to survive those 15 stocks who all wanted me dead. And in Magic the Gathering, there's a concept called card advantage, which is how many cards have you seen versus how many cards have your opponents seen. And for every 1 card you draw, your opponents are drawing 3. That's 3 cards against you for every 1 card you draw. So when Benjamin talks about the odds being stacked against you in these multiplayer games, like that is certainly a reason why winning feels so good. Benjamin, this story came up last season about you and your debate kids playing Smash Brothers and people running around and kiting throughout the entire game to run the clock out.
Yeah.
Like, that is not a way of playing that demonstrates
honor.
Yeah, honor would be one of those words. Yes, you were able to maneuver around a game mechanic, but is it a way that's satisfying to all of the other players? And that's kind of what we're talking about today.
Right, or even satisfying to yourself. Like, I feel like there's a certain thing about winning where I think there's 2 main camps. There's the, are you winning because you actually want to feel smug and better than everyone else and you want that dopamine hit, or are you trying to win because you want to improve and get better, and maybe you have a goal and aspiration to be the best you can be, and maybe even be on competitive circuits or things like that.
Yeah.
I think one of those is totally legit, right? If you're trying to improve at a task, right? You want to go pro, you want to get better at something, then I think that's legit, and if everyone's on the same page, you go for it. But if your goal is the dopamine hit or the feelings of superiority, I think there's a personality issue there. And I think we can get to that, and it's where I was going to spend most of my words of wisdom, was on the idea that maybe the priorities need to shift, because those are temporary. The dopamine hit is temporary. The feeling of superiority is temporary. And if you're constantly chasing those things, you'll go to greater and greater lengths to get them. It's like an addiction that gets harder and harder to fulfill.
Yeah.
And I'll come up with new words of wisdom because I want to dive in on this. I think that the dopamine hit is an addiction. You can get addicted to that, right?
Yeah.
And the first time you beat somebody at a game, it feels great. The second time, maybe they've gotten better, maybe you're rivals or something. It's either harder to accomplish, in which case you're getting better and that's good, or it was as easy as the first time. It doesn't feel as good, right? Now you have to beat them harder. You have to pub stomp.
Yeah, and
right?
you're going to have diminishing returns.
Yeah.
Each time
and then
each time you win like that handily, it's not going to feel as good the next time, and so you need to win even harder.
Yeah, and eventually the group you're playing with isn't worth it. You have to get higher and higher, and if you're not willing to lose first, like you're just looking for the hit and not the skill, then you start doing questionable things. You start being a sore loser and a sore winner, right? Because you're high. Sore winners are sore winners because that dopamine hits them right at that point, right? They're not thinking straight. They're so caught up in what they came to do that they stopped having fun with the people that they're playing with until they get that hit. And sore losers, the same thing. If you've ever tried to keep an addict away from their addiction, right? They get nasty. They become jerks. Or they go through withdrawals. That's what a sore loser is experiencing, right? They got used to it. I mean, there's a whole bunch here about what causes this, but ultimately you got to go through the process of letting go of the dopamine in exchange for some other high, some other goal that's healthier.
So, as you were talking, I was thinking about this Smash Brothers match. I think somebody even commented on YouTube that it was an Isabelle running around in a big map in Smash Brothers, while the other person just kept chasing them and trying to land hits. And my thought is is running around making that person a better Isabelle player? Are they getting better at that character by simply kiting around the stage over and over again for the last 20 seconds of the match? Or could they have potentially lost the match by fighting somebody head on, but gained a little more skill and gotten a little bit better, or maybe won by facing their opponent directly? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, that's how I got better against Steven. Playing Smash Brothers, he would beat the life out of me over and over and over, days on days, weeks on weeks.
Yeah.
And then finally something started to click.
With Ness, and he would juggle. He would hit you in the air, hit you with PK Thunder, hit you with PK Fire, hit you with PK Thunder again.
Yeah, just all these combos where you just kind of juggled around the stage and then you're dead. And then you learn how to deal and adapt, and you get better.
Yeah, and you learn how to break your way out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, like, those are the two sides of this conversation. What is happening behind your eyes when you're hunting for the win? Because if you're hunting for the dopamine hit of just a tally mark next to your name in the win column, then that's not a strong reason to play. And eventually it's not going to be enough. And like Benjamin said, you're going to start doing questionable things to accomplish it, like breaking deals or promises. But if you're hunting for the win by examining your skills and examining your choices in a game and trying to improve, that's something that everyone in your game should be able to respect and honor.
I wasn't even thinking necessarily about the other people. I was thinking in terms of your own health and sustainability, right? If you're constantly looking for that, right, you are eventually going to push people away. You're going to lose opportunities to win. You're going to lose opportunities to
even play in the first place.
Yeah, right. And if you're doing I'm going to run out the time by just running away, that's what you'll get good at, but you'll never be good at, you won't get better, right?
Yeah.
And when you're chasing the high, you're not growing because growth takes losing. And that's where you mentioned doing the questionable things to win, because, the high can't wait. The dopamine rush can't wait. You're not willing to lose. So then what happens? Either you lose anyway and it feels awful and you probably are going to act like a sore loser because you didn't get your fix, or you're going to do something questionable to win when you shouldn't, right?
Yeah. Episode 4 of My Mythical Meta was called The Rule Zero, or The Session Zero. It was about establishing the stage for your game playing and establishing the expectations. This is normal. Terms of engagement should be established and agreed upon before a game. And then, as you play the game, it should only be won within those terms. Anything outside the terms is often going to be grounds for exile from a game or group. People might not be interested in playing with you if you break the terms of engagement. So here are some of my thoughts about this through the lens of
The El Dorado Ascension Classic.
Hello, Commander. I do my killing before breakfast. 7 o'clock. 8 o'clock. I do my killing after breakfast. I know Kung Fu.
Come on, stop trying to hit me and hit me.
You throw another moon at me, and I'm gonna lose it.
Alright to good! Nightmare to you!
in our league, we have basically kind of set soft limits on our Magic games. It's kind of like in NASCAR where they set limiters on the cars so that they can only go a certain speed. Our league points do that for our Magic games. Our league points punish certain actions and reward others. And so those are the actions that we want to see throughout the game. Within our league, if someone is driven to win, if they're searching for the hit, if they want to feel that superiority, they have to win through the reward system. Because if they win in other ways, like if they win by tutoring a lot, or if they win by stealing all of your opponent's stuff, then they're going to be punished for that. So they have to win through the achievements that we've set up that reward you. So you have to win for armies or big creatures or having 20 cards in hand or winning by Hellbent. You have to do all the other things that our achievements reward you for. So that means when you're playing with us in our small group, you have to do the things we like in order to even feel that winning hit. But in a tournament setting with strangers, we can't enforce those limits. If I'm playing with a stranger, I shouldn't expect them to know all of my soft limits when playing Magic games. I shouldn't expect those limits in place for other people. However, I would still expect an opponent to follow the rules of Magic. The rules of Magic are hard limits that can't be broken because that's the game we're playing. I still expect them to play one land per turn unless they have played cards or abilities that allow them to do more. I expect them to pay mana for spells. Again, unless they've played a card that grants them the ability otherwise. They can't break those rules. And so if I'm playing with strangers, that's the only thing I can expect from them.
But I do think there's some things that we as a community should generally expect, even if we are all agreed that we're playing to win and that's our main goal, right? Being competitive is not the same as being a jerk, right? Mm-hmm. The terms of engagement within a community, a local gaming store, or even a Grand Prix or something, should be to have a good attitude and make it a good experience to win and lose. Right. I can be kind while I'm winning, polite and courteous, like you said earlier. If you make a cool play, I can compliment it. Like if we're sitting down with strangers at an LGS and I get up to get a snack, I can ask, hey, does anybody want anything while I'm up? I can make sure that public information is clear, keep my lands and artifacts and mana creatures separated.
Mm-hmm. Keep your Dryad Arbor on the front row instead of the back row.
Right. Make sure that everyone knows that I've played an Immortal Sun so they don't accidentally play a Planeswalker into it.
Yeah. For any listeners, Dryad Arbor is a land that's also a creature. And there's a pretty well-known story in the tournament scene of a player who played a Dryad Arbor but kept it in the back row with his lands. And then when his opponent attacked, thinking it was going to win him the game, he moved his Dryad Arbor up to the front row and blocked. And the opponent didn't realize that it was also a creature at the same time because of the way it was arranged.
And, I mean, that's partially Magic's fault. The original Dryad Arbor very much looked like a creature. It was noticeable. They reprinted Dryad Arbor so it looks almost exactly like a regular forest. It just has a power toughness. Like, yeah, you almost can't tell. It's real easy to hide it in the back.
If there was money on the line in that game, they would have had to escort me out with a straitjacket. I would have been gone.
Because of the hiding his blocker?
Yeah. I'd be disqualified. He'd be disqualified. Sweating, screaming, belligerent.
How much money on the line, Derek, would there have to be for you to act like that? $10.
I'll say 1 penny.
I
think booster box?
For me to get, like, cause a scene kind of mad,
Yeah.
$1,000 maybe.
Oh, it would take me much less. If it was like $150, I'd be like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
And then they'd have to be like, "It's public information. You could have asked if I had any blockers."
Ugh.
Yuck.
I'm getting
I know,
mad.
right?
I'm getting
Yeah.
mad over it just for hypothetical
Getting mad by
situation.
proxy.
Great minds, Travis. Great minds.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've established in various episodes that we here at My Mythical Meta think that playing to win means playing to beat your opponents at their best. That doesn't necessarily mean you coach them through. You can still outwit them. You can still, assuming that public information is represented clearly, you can still expect them to do the math themselves or whatever. You're right. There are times when you just sit there with your mouth shut and hope they don't see some line. But you want them to be in a clear mindset with a well-built deck without any handicaps, and then you beat them. You kind of want to win on hard mode. That's, first of all, it gives you growth. And second of all, it gives you the legitimate kick of, I did it, and I did something meaningful.
Yeah.
Right? We're not trying to get one over on a newbie. We're not trying to trick our opponents into winning because we're better at lying or better at, some non-magic thing. This doesn't apply to things like if you're playing Baldur's Gate. Okay, fine. Right, put it on easy mode.
Save scum.
Yeah, save scum, that's fine. Like, if you don't want to grind, playing a game should be fun, right? That's the point.
Yeah.
And I think you can do that with your friends too, right? If you have a friend that beats you all the time and playing against them is a slog, tell them to play a different deck or whatever and say, hey, I want to play on easy mode for a while. Is that okay? A good, healthy group can power down for a couple games and play on easy mode. But when you're all playing on the same level, right, the goal is to figure out the terms of engagement and play on equal terms and then be better. That's the winning at any cost, is I win because I was better. My skill prevailed today. Not I'm winning because I do non-game actions like hiding information that isn't outsmarting anyone. It's simply being a jerk, right?
Yeah.
I think there's other things. I think we're about to get
Yep.
to some unhealthy ways to win at any cost. Don't let your competitiveness turn you into a jerk. You can still be fun and try to win.
Yeah, don't let your competitiveness, your winning drive, guide you into some of these unhealthy behaviors. Cheating is obviously something that people will stop playing games with you for. And as we've said many times, if you don't have other players, then you don't have a game to play. And you will be alone. So do not cheat. Randy, tell us the story about Chaos Orb.
So I just saw this story on YouTube the other day, but it was about a guy. This was, I guess, several years ago when Chaos Orb was legal, and I believe still pretty new to the format. But Chaos Orb is just a card that basically, the whole point of it is you flip it in the air, and whatever it lands on is destroyed. That's the long short of it. So this person who had Chaos Orb on the battlefield was up against a player that had a bunch of permanents, and next turn they were going to swing in and kill him. So the person with the Chaos Orb said, well, it says whatever this card lands on is destroyed. So he tore up the card into like a bunch of little pieces and then threw it up in the air so that all the little pieces landed, and in order to try and destroy the person's board, I mean, several layers of cheating,
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you've destroyed a game piece. That's unintended. That's not how that piece was ever intended to be used. That's, a bunch of different things. But the opponent that had all the permanents on board and creatures, he called the judge over, and the person with the Chaos Orb ended up losing, not because they cheated or tore up any of the other things you think would get someone disqualified for. He got disqualified because now his deck had 59 cards and you had to have 60. He destroyed one of his cards, his deck was no longer legal, he got disqualified. And I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, what a perfect way for the judge to come back on him.
And also the fact that card is now worth like over $1,000. And it's like, bro,
I know.
Your pettiness cost you $1,000. Just
unbelievable.
Yeah, so I thought that was a great one. Just like, he wanted to win at any cost. And I'm sure at that point the card wasn't worth as much. But
Yeah,
he was
it's worth
like,
that much
I'm
now
gonna
because it's
tear
like literally an alpha, beta. The first sets of
printings.
Magic the Gathering ever included
Yeah.
this card.
Yeah.
Which is
and-
why it has such a wacky effect. It's just the Wild West and nobody knows.
yeah,
Nobody
they
knew
didn't know
what they
the game
were
was gonna
doing.
be.
So they said, throw this card in the air, and whatever it lands on, it kills.
Yeah, and it's just like you went through all of that to try to win, and it's like there's no way you thought this was gonna like work. You're not playing by the spirit of the game, you know.
Right.
Even if it wasn't directly written as not being like well, it doesn't say it's against the rules. It's like, was the person going to try to go with that Airbud mentality of the book doesn't say that dog can't play basketball. Like, the book doesn't need to say it. It's a human sport for kids that go to school. That dog did not go to school.
Right?
Yeah. Show me the dog's report card. Is he passing all his classes?
UIL.
Exactly. No pass, no play here in Texas.
Yeah. That dog is not passing, so he is not UIL eligible.
Exactly.
And it's just like that same thing of like, well, just because the rules don't say you can't do it doesn't mean you can do it.
Exactly.
Right.
I think that's a perfect illustration. Maybe it's a Magic urban legend, but still it demonstrates that you should be playing in the spirit of the game. And no game, I guess in the last decade, legacy games have become pretty popular, but no game without a specific purpose would tell you to destroy its game pieces.
Yeah. And I hate when legacy games tell you to do it.
Oh, me too. It hurts so bad. When it says, tear up this piece, it's like, no, I paid for you.
Right?
I'm sorry, what do you mean, like, legacy games?
Like Risk Legacy, Pandemic Legacy.
Oh,
They're games that permanently change after you play them.
okay.
So
like,
the
after
the actions of one game will affect the game next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, is there a point where you could just say like, no, we're wiping the board and starting over?
No.
No.
You write on the board.
You
put
write on it, you
stickers
put
on
stickers
things.
on the board. There's all sorts of stuff, yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
marketing. That's just like, let's get them to ruin the boards. They have to buy another one.
Kind of, but they're set up so that you can play. Like Risk Legacy is you're supposed to play it 15 times, and,
Oh,
and you're
I
like
get it.
you're like telling a story.
Yeah.
And like I still have my Risk Legacy games and 2 Pandemic Legacies games.
Pandemic
Like,
Legacy was meant to be played between 12 and 24 times.
Yeah, so like
I get
it's
I get the purpose, but it's still just like a marketing scheme of like, we can say it's, you know, so they can have like an overarching kind of continual story, but eventually they'll have to come back and buy it again.
right.
Which I mean,
And
you know,
after playing Pandemic Legacy Season 1 and Season 2, I don't want to play them again. And not because they weren't amazing.
Yeah, you should play them once.
They were both so good. But, it is a journey.
There's also a Season 0, right?
Yeah, we haven't done Season 0. Season 0 is about communists.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Oh yeah, that's right.
yay.
Yeah, it's about the KGB. So the KGB is a disease that you have to get out. Pretty amazing. Some other winning at any cost behaviors. These are not healthy ways to play. Lying, misrepresenting any public information. This is information that could be deduced, you know, if somebody spent all the time counting everything, or this is information that is maybe in a stack in front of somebody else's board, but it's behind a cup because somebody was drinking a soda or something.
Yeah, there's a really famous example of this from an old Magic tournament where somebody had a green-black deck, and one of the creatures they were playing was a creature with protection from black. It was a changeling. What's that?
The green one.
Yeah.
The big green one.
Yeah, I don't remember what it's called.
Oh, man. I'm gonna find it.
So, anyways, they're playing that as like their big beater, and they've been keeping the board down, whatever. But it kind of turns into a board stall.
Chameleon Colossus.
Yes, Chameleon Colossus. That's it. And so the guy pumps a bunch of mana into Profane Command, and Profane Command you get to choose 2 things that it does out of 4, and one of the ones he chose was target player loses X life, so he keeps his opponent down low on life. And then the other mode he chooses is he wants to get his creatures in.
Isn't it like creature gains fear or something?
Well, it's up to X target creatures gain fear until end of turn, and fear means they can only be blocked by black creatures or artifact creatures.
Yeah.
There's a board stall, so draining his opponent for X life didn't kill him. But then he says, you lose X life and all legal targets gain fear. And then he swings. And if his opponent says, well, okay, you got me.
Yep.
Well, Chameleon Colossus has protection from black and therefore is not a legal target for Profane Command, which is a black card. And so it did not have fear. But the guy who was playing it
He implied that it had fear.
He implied that it had fear.
Ugh. Disgusting.
And there was a big debate on Magic Reddit, Magic Twitter, whatever, about whether or not this was...
Because everybody's saying, well, he swung with Chameleon Colossus and the defender just said, okay, no blocks, you got me.
Right.
But he actually could have.
Yeah, he basically was like, okay, you lose X life and all legal targets gain fear and I swing for lethal or swing for the win or something like that. Yeah. Kind of very clearly making it seem like... Now, he never once said... Chameleon Colossus has fear, or you can't block it. He never said anything like that.
Right.
But he was heavily implying it, kind of hoping his opponent wouldn't notice that Chameleon Colossus was blockable. And so that's a common story of doing this where he didn't misrepresent the game state, but for me, I would...
He withheld information.
Yeah, he should have said, and these creatures gain fear, because that's theoretically you should...
Yeah, you should target each thing.
Right.
Lying and misrepresenting public information. It's icky, and people are going to remember you as an icky person if you do these things. Now, I say lying, but some games permit lying as part of their rules, as part of their terms of engagement. Poker is a game where lying is baked into the fabric of the game.
Right. Liar's Dice.
Any game with intentionally hidden information.
Werewolf Mafia.
Yeah, so even Magic has a hidden hand, and bluffing is a part of Magic. I mean, I've lost count of the number of times where somebody in our group has left one white open, and we act like we have Swords to Plowshares.
Yeah.
We pretend we have it, even though we might not, or somebody leaves two blue open and threatens to counterspell. So, games that permit lying may not count this, but any other game that doesn't have hidden information or lying is not part of it, you really should steer clear of it.
Yeah.
Go back to episode 14. We have an entire episode about making deals with other players. Any game that contains deal making with other players, any type of political aspect, especially in these free-for-all games, if you set up a deal, reach any type of agreement with another player, we think here at My Mythical Meta that you should stick with it. Because if you break it later, you are potentially wheedling out your pool of potential players to play your game with, or to ever make deals with again. People are going to remember that.
Yeah.
The last deal you ever make with that person, and it's like, was it really worth breaking and never getting another deal again when you might need it more later on?
Yeah, and this came up in that episode. If somebody made a deal with you, it was probably beneficial for the both of you.
Right. One of you not going to agree to it if it wasn't beneficial to you.
Yeah. If it wasn't beneficial, then they wouldn't have agreed to it in the first place. And so not honoring that deal feels like a dopamine rush to say, ha ha ha, I did it. And then what? A crash.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like to me. Derek, do you want to hit this next one?
This says poisoning your opponents. I have no idea what this person, whoever wrote this, was talking about.
Wouldn't that be an unhealthy way to win at any cost?
Yeah, that's murder. Or at least attempted murder.
I was thinking of, what was it? Hamlet. When Hamlet and Laertes have this duel, but Laertes' blade is poisoned.
It's cowardly.
Anyway. Yeah, it's intentionally putting your opponent at a disadvantage they otherwise wouldn't have. You know, what was it? Tanya Harding?
I was just thinking about Tanya Harding.
Yes.
You know, breaking somebody's ankle before an ice skating competition.
Yeah.
That's not a super healthy way to win, and you're going to have documentaries made about you in the future. So maybe it wasn't a super funny joke, but still.
No,
Don't intentionally try to, harm your opponent. Another one is sabotage, destroying any game pieces.
Yeah.
What goes through my head is Weevil in Yu-Gi-Oh! On the boat, throwing Yugi's Exodia cards into the ocean. Say goodbye to Exodia!
I would have thrown him over the boat.
That's a pretty sick way to win at any cost. To literally destroy your opponent's game pieces.
Yugi took it well.
He said, well, I guess I'll add in 5 other cards.
That's showbiz, I guess. Thank God I got Karibo.
Yeah. Later in the season, Bandit Keith does the same thing by stealing Joey's tournament card so that he would have to forfeit. It was Glory of the King's Hand, and then Yugi used Glory of the King's opposite hand. So Joey was going for prize money, and Yugi was going for quote unquote any wish that was in Pegasus's power to grant. I want my grandpa back. And Joey's like, I want $3 million for my sister Serenity's eye surgery. None of you remember this.
Nope.
Barely.
Derek and Randy, y'all are liars.
I remember it.
Dude, I didn't watch Yu-Gi-Oh! As much as y'all.
I didn't remember Bandit Keith trying to do this, but I do remember Joey trying to get money for his sister's
Yeah.
eyes, her eyeballs.
Bandit Keith tries to steal his card.
Cataracts.
And then, and then Mai finds him crying in the hallway, and because she just lost her match, she gives Joey her card.
That was a real G move.
That's why I still ship Joey and Mai in my heart.
Yeah. Do y'all remember in the Russell Crowe movie Gladiator?
I was just thinking that when he stabs them.
Yeah. Man, we're all right in each other's heads.
I was thinking that when y'all talk about Tanya Harding, I'm like, that's not poison. That's more like when Russell Crowe got stabbed.
Yeah.
It's more sabotage.
So for people who haven't seen the movie...
Well, that's what I meant under poisoning, is like intentionally harming your opponent so that they can't play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at a recent debate tournament, my teams got first and third, and top two got to go to state, and the third was alternate. And I was talking about slashing their tires so that my alternate team could also go to state.
So Joaquin Phoenix's character is the Emperor of Rome. He feels threatened by Russell Crowe's the Spaniard. I don't remember what his character's name is.
Maximus.
Maximus, that's what it is.
Maximus Decimus Meridius.
Yeah, he feels like he's threatened by him. The people love him. He's worried that this guy could usurp him. And so he kind of like goes down to like give like a show to the audience or whatever. And like, no, before even that, he goes down into like the pins when he's like chained up and stabs him in the lung. And so for the whole fight, he's got a collapsed
bleeding
lung.
wound.
Yeah, that he's got to do. And he still wins.
Mm-hmm.
What a G. Y'all know they're making a sequel to that?
Who knows why?
Money, baby. That's the reason.
Late stage capitalism.
So disappointing. Benjamin, hit us with this last one on our list.
Okay, so this is all over Magic subreddits and probably predates a lot of them, but using non-game actions to put your opponent on tilt, that's going to be things like flicking your cards, harassing or catcalling, or yo mama jokes or whatever. And there are certain places where this is expected, right? Rap battles and
things we know about.
If it's part of the terms of engagement.
Right, exactly. Right. Yeah. And I was talking to some of my students who talked about how they like to insult their opponents before a match because because they'll do it right back, and it's expected and normal, and it's just part of the game.
Part of debate?
No. Sports, high school sports.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was going to be like, oh
No,
my God, if this isn't debate, that's disgusting.
But that's exactly it. It was part of the high school's wrestling, in this case, I think is what it was. But then if debaters did it, it would be considered unsportsmanlike. And so you have to make sure the place you're in, just like lying in poker is acceptable, but not in other games. In this case, if you are flicking your cards because you have a nervous tick or whatever, fine, maybe work on that, but I'm not going to call you a bad person for it. But there are people on Magic subreddit saying that they do that just so it distracts their opponent so they can't think enough to make the right plays. And that's not a good way to win. That's like you're not...
I've had people do that to me at pre-releases. And I'm like, dude, what's on the line? Like 4 booster packs?
Right.
Don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
Let me just play the game.
You're doing that for some little high for the booster packs and the thrill of beating an opponent at a pre-release, and you're making it miserable for everyone, and you're not improving your skill. You're not better at the game because you flick your cards, right? Like you're not a better drafter. You're not a better. You don't make better decisions. You just distracted your opponent with non-game actions. To me, that's a rude, kind of a despicable way to play, right? I always try to go for the opposite, which is, maybe try to focus their attention on things that will help them. Now, you don't have to do that either, but I don't want to win because you couldn't think straight. That's no different than poisoning your opponent, right? You how about this? In our meta, if someone farts so that I can't think straight, y'all are going to give me extra time on my turn. Right? Y'all going to be like, well, you fainted, I guess you lose.
Give him the slow turn penalty.
Right. So I don't think that the end of winning justifies doing things like that.
Yeah. And that's what we want our listeners to consider. You need to treat your opponent with respect, with dignity, with politeness and courteous behavior, because all of these things are going to cheapen your win. Winning at any cost is not worth it if you didn't grow as a person.
Yes.
If you didn't get better at the game, or if you didn't teach somebody else something. Like, that's what we think at My Mythical Meta games are all about, and why we play games with people, to lift other people up. Like, every time one of you guys beats me at Magic, I'm not thinking like, wow, they were a jerk for winning. I'm thinking, what can I do to shore up that weakness? Mm-hmm. And I'm sure the same thing happens whenever I win.
Yep.
All of us, as a meta together, the four of us, are always thinking about improvement whenever we play together.
Yes.
And I'm so thankful that we don't have these other behaviors. You know, Derek does talk a big talk about winning and wanting to win and wanting to, quote unquote, demoralize us. But none of these things that we talked about, sabotage, non-game actions, not honoring a deal, lying, I can trust that none of those are going to happen.
Oh, shucks.
Yeah, he's a good sport.
Yeah.
I try.
And that, quote unquote, trash talk, that I'm going to win, I want to, you know, Derek says win at all costs, but we know in our meta that it's not at all costs. That he's going to follow our terms of engagement, our league points. He's going to do what the league rewards him for, and he's going to avoid what the league punishes him for.
It's also not at all costs because he's a cheapskate.
It's true. It's true.
Derek proxying all his cards.
Honestly.
Proxying all the Power 9.
See, that's the thing. It's like I could proxy, but like you said, like at no cost. Like I could put a Gaia's Cradle in every one of my decks, and yet I don't because it would be too much for this meta. Like I would be winning, but what's the point if I'm on top of a pillar and you guys can't even like reach up to me? Like I won, but who cares? I don't know. I didn't play within the parameters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that happened, I would probably just stop playing.
Okay, so we've established the rule, guys. No proxying Gaia's Cradle.
Well, I'm saying, think for like a lot of cards. If you're just filling your deck with just absolute thousands of dollars of proxies, it's like, well, you're not playing by the rules. I guess I feel like I don't know. That just feels weird to me.
Yeah. I know we talk about how I guess CEDH in my mind is a quick draw. Whoever can draw their gun and shoot their opponent fastest wins. Mm-hmm. But that does not interest at least me. I know it doesn't for y'all either. But that doesn't interest any of us because that's a 2-second and it's over type of situation. We want to experience. We want to have fun, and that's why we always call it like a wrestling match. Where I want to do explosive things. I want to hit you for 1,000 damage or something like that. Like that cool stuff, And I don't know. If I can do that, then I'm having fun. And if I'm having fun and winning, that's just all the better.
All the better, yeah.
Yeah.
So ask yourself, does the person you beat want to play another game with you? Were you a cool person? Were you polite and courteous and friendly? Did you learn anything? Did they learn anything? How did you treat them while you won? And did you win within the terms of engagement that you established at the beginning? If you're talking in your Rule Zero conversation and y'all are talking about, how long you want the game to go, and everybody says, I want to go to turn 7, and you have the win in hand on turn 4. I mean, what do you do? Benjamin, what do you think you would do in that situation? Everybody says, I want to go to turn 6. You draw the nut and you have the win at turn 4. What do you do?
Kind of put me on the spot here.
I know my answer if you want some time. I would go for it. Turn 4.
You go for it?
Okay, here's the thing. If it was the first and only time it's happened, I would go for it. Just for a cool story at the end, like with the Joda deck. It exploded off on turn 6, turn 5.
Turn 5, yeah.
It was pretty early, yeah.
I didn't know it was going to do that, but I had a pretty good idea it would. But in the future, after doing it one time and having that story, I don't want to tell that same story again. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think our power concerns and our rule zero of, hey, what do we want our decks to do? That comes into play in deck building.
Okay, yeah.
And I think, some of us have put some powerful interactions in our deck that, if left alone and we draw the perfect 7 out of 99 cards, could go off earlier than our meta is really prepared to handle. I think all of us have decks that can do that.
Uh-huh.
I think when that happens, we just go for it.
We go for it because I think that's what pro wrestling looks like for us. Is like, guys, I'm never going to get this perfect hand again.
Yeah, I'm about to
and
reach
so
the summit.
I have to go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I think if our meta was approaching CEDH where we had the tutors and, like, if we were able to sculpt that hand regularly,
yeah,
or if we were playing with, like, say, pick your 7 cards.
Ooh. Speedy H.
Right. Yeah, Speedy. I would change that. I would say, hey, considering that that's the game we're playing, we need to fix that in deck construction. Like, once the game starts, I'm playing to win.
Right.
But I purposely leave out the ability to do those things consistently so that I feel free to do it when I got it.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm with you, Derek.
So what about strangers? You've compared commanders, and everyone agrees. Benjamin, say you just got to the shop early, and there's 3 other people, and they have an open spot for you.
This happened to me. Not the last time 2
that's
times
right.
ago.
You were playing Tazri Partners.
Yes.
God, that's a deck we need a deck tech for because it's so ridiculous.
Yeah, because I got to the shop way before y'all, and there were a couple other guys there that were looking to play a game, and I was like, sure, I'll play with y'all while we wait. I didn't know what they were playing. They were implying that they were relatively new to the game, and if it's new people, I try to go for the weakest deck I have. Because I'm willing to lose, right? I want them to have a good time. I don't want to pub stomp
because
somebody.
we want them to play again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was episode 13 where we talked about new players and gatekeeping.
Yeah. If it's somebody new and they don't tell me that they're playing a high-powered deck, or they tell me what deck they're playing, and no matter how good they say it is, if it's like, oh, you're playing werewolves? Okay. I'm going to pull out the weakest deck I have, and if their deck happens to be good, great. I get to see them show off something cool, right? I'm reminded of when we went to Magic Fest Dallas, me and Travis and who else was it? I think it was me and Travis and 2 strangers, but one of them had the first sliver, and we're like, okay, cool, you're playing slivers. And no, he was playing a combo deck where he cascades into something, and I thought it was cool to see him go off.
Yeah. I think the other guy in that game was playing Animar.
Yeah.
And he got, what is that? What is that statue? It's like foreboding statue or something like that.
Yeah, that when it comes into play, you return
it to hand. So.
Oh wait, isn't that Cloudstone Curio?
No,
it was different.
There's a 4-mana artifact creature.
It's a 4-mana golem, ancestral statue.
Oh, okay.
Where
it says,
whenever it enters the battlefield, it says return target creature you control. Well, if you just return it to your hand, and Animar has at least 4 +1/+1 counters, you can just play it infinitely.
Yeah, and Animar gets infinitely big, and everything else is free at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like, hey, I'm sitting down with a stranger. I'm not going to play the best deck I've got because I'd rather have fun playing than beat a bunch of people who are playing with precons and I didn't know any better, right? Yeah. I don't get any pleasure out of that. They don't get any pleasure out of that. The game is a non-game, right? Where I just, I can play with myself at home.
Breathing.
So if I want to play with other people, I want to play with other people, and that sometimes means, I don't have any decks that are precon level. All my decks are decently built, even the meme decks, right? So yeah. Tazri has a best case scenario, and unfortunately for the guys we were playing with, Tazri, which is a really inconsistent high variance deck that is not highly tuned, but it had its best game against them. I feel really bad for them because of that, but that's why I played it, right? Like, I felt good winning with it against those low powered decks because it was high variance and they both had a chance to be threatening before I killed them.
Right.
There were big werewolves on the field, and one was playing a vampire deck and one was playing a werewolf deck, and I got to see both of them do things, and then I went over them with double strike night dragons.
Were those 2 guys Justin and Steven?
Yes.
Shout out to Justin and Steven. please join our Patreon.
We remember you.
Yeah, so with that conversation, with that scenario, let's jump into this week's news from the Warfront. This week's news from the Warfront is kind of along this same line. This was posted in our EDH, our Magic the Gathering Commander subreddit. Pretty short, but it's gotten a lot of traction, and we wanted to weigh it in and talk about it in the meta. It says, do you go easy on your opponents at your LGS, or do you swing for the fences and win? It says, I'm a fairly new player, maybe played for about 7 months, and for the first 5, after I got a couple of good Commander games in and was comfortable, there have been moments where I could easily eliminate someone or the entire board, but held back on it, just to then get targeted and die first. Now, in the same meta of my LGS, I just swing, ruthlessly. Like turn 2 or 3, just ensure I eliminate my opponent outright, or bring them down to a third of their starting life total. And they get annoyed because they can't play their decks. What's your take? Do you go easy and spare people, or do you go for the throat and win?
I mean, I think we've kind of already answered the, hey, here's what we do when we're up against new people.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to diagnose, and this is a newbie issue, because he's made the dichotomy of either I hold back and die, or I swing in and kill them. And if that's the type of deck you're playing...
He says they are sore losers for it.
Right. Well, I think this is a case of what's going to happen when it's newbie against newbie, because oftentimes they're playing highly linear, mostly aggressive, either real aggro decks or Timmy decks, where the first person to get a big board wins.
Right.
Because they're not playing enough interaction. They're certainly not playing Teferi's Protection or Counterspell or anything that can save them while they set up more intricate plays. And there's nothing happening other than who gets the bigger board and swings first. And so I do think that over time, against better competition and as this player grows, this problem will sort itself out a little bit. Mm-hmm. You know, it sorted itself out in our own meta, right? Where I was often faced with this choice of, do I swing out at y'all or do I hold back so that y'all can do stuff? And eventually, the meta has stabilized, right? And
yeah.
We're not usually faced with that choice either, unless someone stumbles on mana or something. You know, he says he hasn't been playing very much, and I think that's why this choice presents itself. So I do want to say that, and then y'all can answer how you handle this question.
Yeah. If I have the choice, like we've said in the past about our meta in general, I will spread out damage.
Yeah.
I know that that's a weaker strategic choice that does not increase my chances to win. The longer more players are in the game, the more disadvantage I'm at. Just earlier this episode, I mentioned card advantage. If there are 3 other players, for each 1 card I draw, they're going to draw 3. Well, the longer those 3 players are in, the more disadvantage I'm at. But this is still a group game and a social experience, and I want everyone to be playing. It is not fun to be sitting alone when there's a lot of game left to be played, whether that's me or anybody else.
Yeah, I'm 100% the same way. If I have something that could wipe out one person, but I don't have a way to wipe out the other 2, I'll sandbag it for a bit until I have a better opportunity to take the whole team or the whole thing out and try to get everyone lower. You know, so when the people start getting knocked out, the game's just kind of over, and we can start the next one instead of someone getting knocked out and there's still like 30 minutes left of a game. Ooh, that's a brutal time.
Yeah, it's just a not fun time for that person. And I'm going to feel bad for having robbed that person of game time. It feels bad to spend that time traveling and to have spent your money and your time buying cards, building a deck, and then to sit there for 30 minutes not doing anything or on your phone or something.
Yeah.
That's not a great return on investment. And I don't want to rob that from somebody else either.
It's wild for us. You know, we're talking about, you know, we want to win. We're in this league and all that stuff. We're saying that we would rather risk losing than ruin someone else's time of having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is true. That really is how I act. You guys have seen me do that.
Yeah.
I mean, this happens a lot with our group in particular because we're so stable. We have 4 people that when one person's out, we take in 1 stranger. Like, that happens a lot for us.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and I'm always going to go after you guys first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Always. I'm always going to go after you guys first before a stranger, because I want that stranger to know that our meta is a safe space for them, and that anytime they're alone, they could join us if they wanted to.
Yeah, they're not going to get targeted just because they're the odd man out.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe a better Rule Zero conversation at the beginning of any game like that. Would it be better to just, instead of saying, here, welcome to our table where you can sit for an hour. Instead, it's like, hey, do you want to play Magic as hard as you can? Okay, me too. Let's go.
Let's do it.
I mean, I don't know. Benjamin, you had some stuff written here about examining what a person's skill level is like before you make that choice.
I'll pick a deck that maybe can go any direction. You know, I tend to pick a lower level deck, and then I'll wait to see, you know, is their first play a Mana Vault? Or, you know, are they playing
an original dual land?
Right. Or are they playing Emery? You know, or some combo commander where I'm like, okay, that's going to go off on turn 3. Or is their first turn Evolving Wilds Pass, and they're playing
Blossoming Sands Pass.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
What I'll do is I'll play cards that maybe I'll hold up interaction. If I have the choice between ramping or holding up Counterspell, maybe I'll hold up Counterspell instead of ramping. Or hold up a Path to Exile instead of ramping, or things like that. And what that does is it slows me down, even though I could be building to some overwhelming presence, but it allows me to stay on top of, you know, if I'm playing against someone who's highly competitive, then I'll be able to stop what they're doing. And if I'm playing against someone who's not doing something worth countering, then my commander will come out on curve and give them a chance to play. I'll pick a deck that's maybe mid-rangey or something.
Sure.
You know, like John Arenicus would actually be a great example of that. John Arenicus, if it does its thing fast, it's giving you creatures to beat up someone else with. It's not stopping your game plan at all.
Yeah.
At least not that fast. You know, that would be a perfect one to bring out against strangers and say, hey, if you are doing something broken, well, I've got stuff to stop you. But if you're not, I'll just play my Phyrexian Rager and draw a card and give it to you to swing with.
Right.
You know, I think that's a good example of how I might approach it.
Yeah. This post just kind of read to me like, and again, new player, only playing for 7 months. It just feels like they've probably experienced a lot of sore winners and losers in their LGS. That's what this post reads like to me. Because this person feels like it's not okay to do either. And it's kind of become a meme within the Magic community of people asking, is it okay to win? And that seems ridiculous on its face, because that's how you play. That's the rule of the game. Games have to end, people have to win. And that's kind of what sparked this conversation, is when is it okay to win? I'm of the opinion that it's always okay to win because you can shuffle up and play again. It's all about your attitude as you played that is going to determine whether you had any class in your win or not.
Yeah.
Benjamin, isn't this crazy coming from me?
Yeah, that's not the way he used to be.
As a
He's
child.
grown so much. Yeah. I'm proud of you, Trev.
Thank you so much. Yeah, as
You're
a
welcome.
child, it was, you know, I see the writing on the wall that I'm going to lose. Fine, then I quit and I walk away. Like, I was just a definition of a sore loser. And Benjamin, I want to credit you with some of my personal growth.
Aw, thank you.
And Randy and Derek.
Thank you.
That's
What
what
I do.
a good meta does. We help each other grow. Anything you guys want to add to this week's News from the Warfront? Any last words of advice? I say go for the win. I say go
Yeah.
for the win, and as you're going for it, you say, I'm going to go for it because it never happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I say go for the win.
And I'd say start building decks where the chances of it getting turn 2 and turn 3 wins are lower. Build in some interaction to protect you from other people doing that sort of thing.
That's true. You can
Yeah.
change your deck building to be a little more reactive.
Yeah. Like, for someone who's been playing only a couple months and a deck that can win on turn 2 or 3, either they went all in, they spent a bunch of money, you know, that's very possible, or they're playing highly aggressive decks against newbies, people who aren't ready for that. And, you know, a lot of that can be handled with deck building, I feel like. So, you know, something to think about.
Cool. Derek, Randy, any final words?
No, I don't got anything.
No.
Benjamin, whisk us into the night with some sultry words of wisdom.
All right.
Ooh, I like this.
My words of wisdom, we're going to talk about how winning at any cost was an addiction. It's a symptom of an addiction to dopamine, but we already covered that. So instead, I'm going to talk about how this applies to the rest of your life. Dopamine in general actually is an addiction that a lot of us have, and it's gotten worse with TikTok, social media. I'm an old man now, and back in my day, we had to work for our dopamine.
Back in my day, we had to win games of Magic for dopamine.
Winning games of Pokemon with our Mr.
Exactly.
Mimes. No, so I think that in an age of easy dopamine, it's really hard to see what's important, right? Because our bodies have been wired to experience dopamine when we've done something good, when something good is happening to us. And now we get to skip that part. It's real easy to get that dopamine rush from things that we didn't really earn. From the right short, a quick joke that's forgotten from a cheap win. And because of that, a lot of us have lost the art of humility, of experiencing what it's like to just sit around a table and have fun, from real connection, right? It's not necessarily supposed to be dopamine. Sometimes it's supposed to be, I don't know, what are the other good ones? Serotonin. Or what's the one that you get when you make real connection with somebody? The really good one.
Propinquity. No, I don't know.
No. Oxytocin. That's the one I was
There
thinking
you
of.
go.
Sometimes it's supposed to be oxytocin, right? That you get from real connection with people.
Dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, and oxytocin. Wow.
Yeah.
Great job, Benjamin.
Thanks. And I feel like that's ultimately what this whole podcast is about, is trying to build those real connections with people. And I had to counsel some students earlier today about how to be humble with a partner, and how you don't have to win the argument. Healthy relationships aren't based on winning the argument. It's based on building connection and getting past that need to win. And that's the same thing in our games. And sometimes you join a tournament and you want to win. But when you're getting together with friends, it's not about the winning. It's about the connection. And the winning is secondary. And when you go to an LGS to play a 4-on-4 or a 1-on-1 free-for-all, you're not likely to win. And if that's your goal, you've chosen the wrong activity, right? The goal needs to be in the experience. It's the friends you made along the way. It's the journey, not the destination, right? And learning to do that in the rest of your life. You go to school to learn, not to get grades, right? Or you go to school to learn and not to graduate, right? You join a relationship not so you can die with someone, but so you can live with someone. And there is no happily ever after. It's work the whole time, and it's wonderful. But you got to do it, one step at a time, and get over the need for instant gratification and look for a lifetime of gratification. And that it's game playing, it's relationships, it's every activity you do has long-term implications. And find a way to break free of that dopamine hit and find the real happiness.
Whew, a true return to form for My Mythical Meta. Not just about magic, guys. This is your whole life. The My Mythical Meta life chose me. All right.
Well, we lucked into a good group. So
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Thank you guys so much for listening. Remember, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/mymythicalmeta. You can also email us directly at mymythicalmeta@eldoradogaming.com. Don't forget that you can always use the promo code META at eldoradogaming.com for 10% off. But that Patreon is going to give you that sweet, sweet 20% off code. Thank you so much, and thank you guys for being my great friends. Adios.
bye.
Later.
See ya.
This episode was sponsored by Eldorado Gaming. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. This episode was edited by me, Travis Konishek, and our intro and outro music is by Tyler Heath of the Oh Hellos.